Demon Slayer is about a guy slaying demons to save his sister. It's mega popular, so you probably don't need me to tell you to check it out. The whole series is concluded last year and I read all of it, so I'm going to talk about everything I liked and disliked about it. I'll go in chronological order, so if you're not caught up, stop whenever, or I'm going to talk about major spoilers, like telling you the prettiest character in the series is actually the guy running around shirtless. Shocker, I know. Dear lord, he's flexible. I need my back broken like that. I'm not gonna lie, I initially didn't have high hopes for the show at first. I feel like anime fans, or maybe it's just Fate fans, have this obsession with Ufotable, that they're the goats and they can do no wrong. I did enjoy Fate Zero and Heaven's Feel, but then they put out shit like this. I'm a fan of the Tale series, but I wasn't really feeling this game. Then I tried watching the show and it made me hate it even more. And I don't even know what this show is about. I'm pretty sure it was originally a mobile game. All I know is that I only ever fell asleep watching something 3 times in my life, and this is one of the 3. I feel like the show is supposed to be clickbait with the cute boys, but if they don't look like this, I don't want to hear it. But yeah, I guess I was wrong for doubting Base Ufotable, because I actually think Demon Slayer is their best work yet. I also can't predict the future because I didn't think this would be the mega hit that it is. Some of these sale numbers are kinda bonkers. I think the reason for it being so popular is because they have a really strong opening. I'm not talking about the song that plays in the beginning, but that's also a banger. Some of my favorite first episodes in the genre are Naruto and My Hero, and I put this up there. Nice guy Tanjiro comes back home to find that his house looks like a scene from Corpse Party. Really cool stuff for a first episode, I gotta say. Unfortunately, after the first episode, I was kinda asleep. He kills a demon, trains for this test, kills a demon during the test, then he goes on his first mission and kills another demon. I once had my friend tell me he couldn't finish part 3 of JoJo because he didn't like the villain of the week shit they do, but then they proceeded to tell me Demon Slayer is their favorite anime. Like, come on bro. The beginning of the series is the most villain of the week shit ever. I actually stopped watching Demon Slayer after he beat his second demon. The series starts off so atypical and couldn't hold my attention for long periods of time after such a strong start. Then I picked it back up a few weeks later and the show immediately gets cooler when they introduce the main villain. It's probably been said he looks like Michael Jackson 100 times already, but I want an excuse to include the stomping clip, so I'm gonna bring it up regardless. After that, they introduce more villains of the week like the Dodgeball Demon, and this demon whose power is that he has Donkey Kong's bongo sticking out from his chest. This is also the arc where they introduce the boys. Inosuke is an adorable Chad, and Zenitsu is a nerd. I see a lot of hate on him because he's basically the yellow male version of this character, the way he constantly complains about having to do the simplest tasks like living. And as the Blue Dane's #1 fan, I'm naturally inclined to like the Yellow Dane, and he's one of my favorite characters in the series. He proclaims his love to random women on the street, and as one of the leaders of the Bean Down Bad Allegiance, I feel like we're kindred spirits. The boys then go to a mountain and see a bunch of their coworkers dying, so shit just got real. This is the part where they have the beautiful fight scene that broke the internet, where everyone who's into animation wanted to have Ufotable's children. The animation here is simply breathtaking, and I pray every night that maybe Queen Bee will reach this level of animation in 2077. The animation is really pretty, I just wish they fought a more interesting villain. He's this little unlikable brat who uses spiderwebs to fight, but all he wanted was a family, so I guess he's alright. Just kidding, he sucks and his backstory is not gonna change that. My biggest complaint about the series is that they show flashbacks for like 60% of these demons, and it's a tad bit annoying. I get it, Tanjiro's an angel, and demons were humans once too. But I don't really need to know or care about some of the backstories for these demons. They're demons and they're evil, that's all I really need to know. Honestly, when they tell me their backstories, it feels like a cheap trick to get me interested in a villain that's not that interesting for the most part. After everyone is bruised and battered, my girl gets spanked because she's talking a bit reckless, and then they show off the cool important demon slayers. This is basically like the scene from Bleach where you meet all the captains for the first time, because it's basically exactly like that. The series doesn't really do the most original things to reinvent the shonen formula, but it's also fine because if it isn't broke, you don't have to fix it. I really liked how Muzan got pissed and killed all the non-important demons in 30 seconds. I honestly can't blame them either, I mean every demon up until now has been pretty whack. If you want to speedrun get into the top 6 out of 12, I'm all for it, because that's where I think the series really shines. And yes, this is the same person, they just went from Michael Jackson to mommy material in the span of a few episodes. Quite impressive. And that was season 1 summed up in a very quick way. Overall, I found it average, but not bad by any means. It just wasn't for me. I think the animation is really carrying the show on its back, like how Tanjiro carries Nezuko on his back. The series honestly does get even better from here on out, so if you think this is your favorite anime of all time, you'll honestly be blown away if and when a season 2 comes out. I would genuinely be excited to watch a season 2 because it would cover my favorite arc in the series, and where I think the series actually peaks. There's actually a movie that is canon and takes place after season 1, but to be honest, I wasn't really feeling it. The last fight scene was cool though. I honestly feel like the movie is so popular and made them so much money because fans are watching the movie multiple times just to see the fight and cry afterwards, because that's the only good part about it. To keep it real, they fight this demon whose power is to put the demon slayers and me to sleep. They then fuse with the train, so they have to fight a train demon. Think of the train balls from Final Fantasy, but not as cool. This fight, which is hot mid, takes up about 2/3 of the movie. Tanjiro having to repeatedly cut his own neck to wake up is pretty hype though, I'm not gonna lie, and I thought it was funny how he almost did it in real life because he thought it was a dream. I mean, the whole point of the movie is stupid. Zenitsu's on the train, who's literally only strong when he's asleep. He doesn't even wake up to fight, he stays asleep during the fight. Could he not have noticed some shit was going down? Him dreaming about Nezuko is adorable though, so I can forgive it. The whole train sequence was mediocre, and honestly I just preferred if they ran a train on. But after the train, they finally show off an actual cool demon that even manages to kill the Flame Pillar, showing the series isn't afraid to kill off important characters. This really is just the beginning of the suffering the series shows viewers. Gotta say, I'm a pretty big fan when series do this. I hate watching the show and just knowing nothing bad is gonna happen because we're the good guys. Showing how they can and are willing to kill such a strong character in the series really raises tensions and something I feel the series needed before this. I think they handle death fairly well throughout the series, unlike some shows that have characters die so fast I can barely remember their names. After seeing scenes where everyone is sad over the Flame Pillar's death, and in turn making me sad, they do the next arc in the series, which is where I think things really get good. For starters, this dude's a super flamboyant Chad that even has 3 extremely hot wives. I know that sounds something like a 14-year-old would say to you in a salty PSN message after losing a game, but he really does have 3 wives. In the arc, they basically have to infiltrate a red light district, and there's a lot of funny moments here like the 3 Stooges dressing up like this. I don't know why you're wearing makeup, you're more beautiful without it, I declare as I try to think of the cringiest thing I can say. There's also buff mice that carry around his swords, not really relevant to the plot at all, but I'm glad it's here nonetheless. I only really ended up liking 2 to 3 demons in the whole series, and this is one of them. She uses these sashes like whips, can alter part of her body to be a sash, even absorb people in them. It's quite creative. It also helps that she's uber hot. Can't wait to see her get animated, I'm not gonna know what to do with myself. I feel like if the internet exploded when Tanjiro fought Rui the Spider Kid, when he fights Daki, the explosion might be more like a nuke. I don't think he has looked this cool in the series to date, this fight is insanely hype. He looks like a badass swinging his sword around using his sun breathing technique. And even Nezuko looks like a badass over here. Before with the Spider Kid, she just made her brother's sword explode. Here she gets out of the basket and just kicks the demon's head straight off. She then proceeds to regenerate her arms like a champ and stomps on this demon's head, truly asserting her dominance and letting everyone know that your son calls me mommy at the dinner table too. I thought this fight was the sickest thing ever and insanely hype. At least 3 times as hype as the coolest moment in the series before this. After they struggle to beat her, my boy just comes in like a boss and cuts her head off like it was nothing. But surprise surprise, her big brother comes to help who's even stronger, and they reveal the twist that you have to cut off both of their heads at the same time to kill them both. I was actually not expecting this twist and it made a great fight even cooler. The 3 boys managed to cut off both heads, and I mean, look at these panels, I'm just getting wet looking at them. I'll probably be gushing all over the place if this got animated, and I think everyone else would too. I'm not even the biggest fan of the series, but I'll admit these are some of the tightest manga panels I've ever seen. Before this, I thought the series was a bit overrated, definitely not deserving of the second or most popular shonen series, but after this arc I gotta say they won me over. I feel like the series peaked at this moment, but after this it still manages to maintain an extremely strong pace, truly Demon Slayer at its strongest. The arc after this I felt was very good, but not as good, mainly because they don't have Zenitsu and Inosuke there, but on the bright side their replacements for this arc I thought were great. They get to further develop the cute little Mist Pillar, and Genya, the scary looking dude from all the way back in the first few chapters. He eats demons to power up and uses a freaking gun. Not gonna bother checking if it was historically accurate to have a gun, but who cares, it's hype. They both start off as unsociable little shits, but in this arc they both become very likable. Before this, I was pretty dead set on Shinobu being my favorite girl in the series, but after they introduced the love pillar, I gotta say my decision was swayed. And yes, them showing her naked in the hot springs did change my decision. She's great though, probably the most lovable character in the cast, corny pun intended. Her whole story is basically no one likes her cause her hair is weird, which is absurd to think about because her color scheme is broken. I even got my keyboard based on her look. Wow, that sounded kinda cringe, so let's just say I got that keyboard before reading the series, cause I really like watermelons. The reason she joins the Demon Slayers in the first place is because she wants to find a husband who's stronger than her, which she's having trouble finding because she's very strong herself. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but it's 2021, who doesn't love a strong muscular queen? I felt like the main thing holding this arc back was the villains. We went from the best in the series to a demon whose power is he can move from pot to pot, so basically you have to defeat a whack-a-mole. And then they fight 4 demons that are really controlled by this one small dude who has a big boob on his forehead. After this arc, I was actually a bit surprised by the pacing. I got spoiled on an upcoming event, so I decided to just power through and get it over with. They have a short training arc sequence where they don't do much. The main takeaway is that Nezuko is slowly becoming human, meaning she can't be burned by the sun. So they're gonna have a final battle to try and take her because Muzan wants some of that. I wasn't expecting the final part to be approaching so soon, but hey, I'm all for it. I'd rather they end it early instead of having to drag on unnecessarily. The other takeaway is that the white-hair Bakugo is an asshole, but it's really a front because he's actually a nice guy who loves his brother deep down but won't admit it. I think for a concluding arc for a story, this was overall quite well done. Everyone breaks off and has their own fights until eventually throwing hands with Muzan. The thing I got spoiled on was that one of my favorite characters dies almost immediately as the arc starts. I kinda have this curse where 9% of the female characters I like end up dying. It's a tad bit ludicrous. This dork kills her, which makes it even worse, but it's okay because she gets revenge on him from beyond the grave like a Call of Duty death streak. Rest in peace, Queen. As the comic relief character, I always wanted my boy to get his time to shine. I mean, he only fights people while he's sleeping. I always wanted him to do better. And now his time has finally come, and I'm very happy for him. He basically fights the shadow version of him who's opposite him in every way. I wish he did more this arc, as he's kind of on the sidelines after his 1v1, but him developing his own move outside of the only one he knows is sick. He's probably my favorite comic relief character in all of Shonen, to be honest. He's basically clowned the whole series, so I'm genuinely glad to see him get the recognition he deserves. The cool demon from before comes back to fight Tanjiro and Gyu and proceeds to talk massive shit. I know I complained about flashbacks before, but I feel like with Akaza, he's the only one that was done extremely well. It's probably because they introduced him much earlier, and I like the little touches here like him having flashbacks of him being human mid-fight. While he does have the longest flashback being about 3 chapters in the manga, it's also absurdly tragic, so I do kinda feel bad. He even continues to fight even after getting his head cut off through sheer willpower. He eventually finishes himself off, showing some sort of redemption before death. Maybe demons aren't so bad after all. How much is too much? I'll tell you, the answer is 6, because this is downright ludicrous. He's on the borderline of being the coolest looking demon while also being the dumbest looking. He's lucky this series isn't set in modern day, cause I just throw a flashbang at him and that's GG's, buddy. Demon aside, this is a contender for best fight in the series. It takes 4 of some of the strongest characters in the series to take him down, and the boys have a tough time doing it, justifiably so since he's ranked number 1. The fight didn't disappoint and some of these panels are sick nasty. I think the events after the fight are the saddest moment in the series. I mean, this single line probably got more emotion out of me than half the cast fails to do. It's not even just him, they killed the Mist Pillar in the same chapter, a whole double whammy of sadness. I wish they treated characters' deaths more like these two throughout the series, cause I consider this perfect. Instead of showing me how this guy with his head already chopped off carries around his brother's flute for hundreds of years cause he secretly loved him, despite saying the opposite all his life, both Genyu and Michiru are already developed, so you only have to give me a short reminder of their backstories as they pass on, and I think it works so well. I really liked how the series handled Tanjiro also. There's the strongest swordsman who's ever lived that almost beat Muzan that looks exactly like an older Tanjiro. He's got the looks, the same mark on his head, earrings, and even started using the same fighting style that no one else could master except him. So naturally, you'd think he's his descendant, but no, he's only really related to a friend of the guy. He gets the same powers for plot reasons, but I think it's pretty neat how he's just some guy. I much prefer to find out my main character wasn't really born a prodigy and grinded to get to where he is now, and not someone who I thought was some ordinary kid, but actually has 4 different powers handed down to him from his parents and is essentially just Mr. Worldwide. Yeah, I only really brought this up to shit on Bleach. After beating the rank 1 demon, all that's left is to fight Muzan, and to be honest the fight is kinda whatever. Everyone who's still left alive basically stalls him out till sunrise. If I were asked to say in one sentence what I don't like about Demon Slayer, I'd just say this character. He does nothing for about 95% of the series, it just dumps a sad backstory on the readers about how he got his scar on his face. Pretty much every complaint I have in this series rolled into one character. I really don't know why they didn't talk about this beforehand. The Wind and Stone Pillar both just got their stories brought up recently in the arc before, and I didn't really mind. He also gets her to agree to be his bride if they were to ever reincarnate, which doesn't get me jealous in the slightest. After the whole squad manages to stall him out, Muzan in a last-ditch effort turns into a big baby to try and dig his way underground. Honestly, what the hell is this? In life, there's some times that you just have to say pack it up. This right here is one of those times. This looks like the type of image I'd see on a stupid tweet like, would you step on this baby for $4 million? I guess I'm gonna change my government name to Marcus cause I'd Gears of War stomp him for free. To make it even worse, he tries to take over Tanjiro in another last-ditch effort. This part is extremely unnecessary and I thought was forced. I feel the only reason was so Nezuko can contribute, but she doesn't need to. She's the reason they're fighting in the first place. It's okay to sit this one out, sweetie. The series ends on a bittersweet note cause they won, but it feels like half the cast is dead. And then they try to do some meta type ending where they fast forward hundreds of years into the future, and I heard people weren't really into it. But you know what, I actually liked it. It's probably the only way the series could have ended on a happy note, and since the theme of family and their ancestors is so prevalent throughout the series, it makes sense. It's really cute to see these characters in a setting where they don't have to fight for survival on a daily basis. I gotta say, I had to read it twice because I was a bit confused why Zenitsu wasn't trying to proclaim his love for Nezuko, because that's all the original would do. And then I understood they were brother and sister, and I was reading Demon Slayer, not Arrow Manga Sensei. The series ends with a photo of the original cast framed on a wall, as well as the iconic earrings, showing they're remembered hundreds of years later, and it's a nice send-off. And that's what I thought about Demon Slayer arc by arc. Overall, I enjoyed it a lot, but I'm not obsessed with it or anything. 8 Nezuko head pats out of 10. That's the end of the video. I wanted to do kind of a narration style for this one, as I really wanted to talk about the parts of Demon Slayer that weren't animated yet, but I also didn't want to alienate anyone who's only watched the anime by naming the video "Do Not Watch If You Don't Read Manga" or something like that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, let me know, and if you really liked it, spank that sub button. Peace.